Welcome to the Simply Soul Homestead. We are at our garden today. This is our 2.5 year to garden. So we're gonna take you on a May garden tour. We thought it would be fun to do a little series this summer to do a monthly garden tour to show you what we have planted, what we harvest and what we replant and what's growing, how things are doing. So like I said, this is our third year, but the first year we didn't fully have water, so it's harder in the East Texas heat. So here we are. I'm going to take you into the garden and show you what we have planted. Let's go. Alright, so we're going to start with our first 3 rows. These were the very first things we planted. February, it's like the planet on Valentine's Day. What we have here is we made this. We have a full row of onions. We did some purple and a bunch of yellow onions. Those are the flowers from the onions. And then we have 2 rows of potatoes. So we did a lot of golden potatoes because those are my favorite. And then we did some purple potatoes. So as you saw in our spring prep video, we had a major difference in growth from this side of the garden to this side of the garden. Whoops, sorry. Because we put a lot of manure on this far side, so it has grown so much. So we've tilled more manure into the rest of the garden, and we're gonna keep doing that as our fertilizer. We're gonna put it in the aisles as we till and pull dirt up throughout the summer. But so here you have our onions and then 2 rows of potatoes. We have had a harder problem with potato bugs. Now, I don't remember having potato bugs at all in past years. I don't know if it's because our winter was colder or not as cold this year, but we're kind of having trouble with them. But I think we're still gonna have some good potatoes. Okay, so this next row, our 4th row in our garden, we did some wintry greens, which we have utilized: the lettuce, the spinach, the kale, things like that. But our cabbage was kind of a sacrificial plant. We did it, I probably could have done it earlier. It just didn't grow as big as we needed it to early on. It's getting too hot now. The chickens have kind of devoured it. We're working on keeping the chickens out of our garden with our electric fence, but we kind of just sacrificed it. But we did plant cabbage. It's our very first time. Next year I'll get it in the ground earlier, but we were able to start some of these greens in the greenhouse that our neighbor let us use, and we shared about that in our greenhouse video for teaching kids how to make a greenhouse at home. But we have had some great luck with some of these greens. But all 4 of these first rows will be coming up and out sometime this month, and we'll be replanting them with some other things, which our June video will share what we'll plant in their place. For lots of things, and then we just harvested it. So yesterday it was very pretty. Now it looks like it's been attacked, but it was a beautiful crop. We have kale here. My daughter wants to make money to go to the beach this summer. So she has been had me posting it and selling the kale and the bundles of lettuce that we've harvested, which we're excited. We're excited to make some things for our family this year, but also be able to sell some produce from our garden. So we harvested all this yesterday. It was beautiful, and it has been great, but it's about to get that sour taste because it's starting to get hot around here. So we put this fence up. It is not our favorite style of holding our snap peas, but the snap peas, sadly, because we do love snap peas, were a wash this year because our chickens attacked them. So our kids have snacked on a couple, but really we'll have to do this again in the fall once we figure out how to keep our chickens and our duck out of the garden. There's a couple. So our 5th row of vegetables are tomatoes. So in between tomatoes, in between every 3rd one, I have some basil, which this basil plant looks really good, and they will grow really big. And then I also put some marigolds where I could, because I came in late with these, or I would have put more because they really help keep bugs off of your tomatoes. So I put those there. And then people just say basil and tomatoes grow well together, probably because they cook well together. But so right here at the beginning, we have celebrity tomatoes, and we have probably about 12 or 15 of those. We have 24 tomato plants altogether this year. So we have celebrity, and then we have the better boy one. So those I'm not gonna lie, I'm really proud of our tomatoes already because they just feel, I guess it's from the manure we tilled in, they feel really healthy already. We're in the middle of May. We have some fruit already showing, a lot of blooms. I feel really good about this year's tomato crop. We want to put away and can a lot of tomatoes. Here are the gardens, which you can tell they're a lot bigger, so I'm not sure if it's because we had more manure on this side or if it's because of this specific kind. So here at the end of the garden, I have some Swiss chard, which I've used also in some meals that I've prepped and things like that. And Miguel tasted it and said it still tastes good, even though right here you can see the difference. These are big, pretty leaves. If you look here, it's almost like flowering, or over here, it looks different. And this is where it's starting to go to flower, which sometimes there aren't flowers showing yet, which is where your plant goes to seed and starts creating seeds. But when it gets to that, they will go sour. So we're gonna harvest these today, figure out how we're gonna use them, and then we'll probably pull these up. We actually found some surprise tomato plants in our compost that we used at the back of the garden. So I might bring those over here because they're gonna get taken over by all of my vining plants if I don't. So we'll see how those do. Okay, here on these two rows, we did plant some strawberries last year, but only 2 of the plants came back up. They looked really healthy, but they produced nothing. Well, I lied. There's a nasty looking red strawberry down here. I don't think we're strawberry farmers, and I think we'll uproot these and be done with that. They're just kind of a waste of our space. They don't take up that much space, but still, we don't need them. So on this next aisle, I have another marigold, and then we have some beautiful, we're very proud of, green beans that we have here. And they're supposed to be bush green beans, but they do vine a tiny bit. You'll see that down here. We have this vining out, very sticky. And these are reaching, I think we cut that earlier. These are reaching for our tomato plants. So that's pretty interesting because these were supposed to be bush green beans. But they look very healthy. We're excited for them to grow and to harvest green beans this year because we didn't get any good ones last year. No. So those go all the way down here, so over half of a row probably of green beans. And then we come to our peppers. So we have jalapeno peppers and bell peppers, and right now I couldn't tell you which one's which. Let's see. Okay, these are bell peppers, so they're bigger a little bit. And then here's some jalapeno peppers coming towards the end. I don't think I got any banana peppers this year because we just grew way too many last year and I really had no purpose for them, so I didn't want them. And I have a little bit of space here at the end that I have a couple more peppers I'm going to put in. And this is a random compost plant that came up in the compost before we moved it into the garden. I uprooted it and put it in here. It looked like it died, but it's grown. I'm pretty sure it's cantaloupe the way it's looking, but we got these homemade, old, very sturdy though, tomato cages from someone on Facebook for free, and we're not using them for our tomatoes, but we're actually using them for a lot of our vining plants to help get them off the ground and going up and not taking up so much space or getting super weedy. So I put this in this morning. How long are our rows?
100 feet.
100 feet. So we have, this is our 7th row, 100 feet long. What we have here is purple whole peas. And so they don't go all the way down, they go kind of like the green beans. Over halfway down is purple whole peas. Our purple holes last year grew so healthy. They were a beautiful plant to watch grow. They just get really deep green. I'm hoping when it gets hot again that we're gonna see that and see some growth. They did kind of start off slower this year, and I think honestly it's just because it's been cool and super rainy, which I'm not complaining about the rain because we haven't had to use our new watering system yet really, but I think when the heat picks up here, we're gonna see a big jump in how these look. So these purple holes go all the way down to here, and then this starts my little herb area. So honestly, I couldn't decide if I wanted my herbs to be in like a separate garden somewhere close to the house, in a box, in a tub. So I just put it in the garden, and I'm still learning about herbs. This is my first time to really have success. So I have several sage plants. We started these in the greenhouse that we used back in January. So these are my sage plants, and they look really good. However, I saw someone else's that lives near us. I realized if I have the same sage as she does, they actually will get way bigger. So I am happy with them, but you can see the sage, there's quite a bit of it. Now, one thing I'm not understanding is the cilantro I planted. Because I thought cilantro did well in the summer, but it has all gone to flower. Now I have used some of it, but they say you're not supposed to let things like this go to flower. And so I don't know if I'm supposed to be trimming it off. I need to really do my research. Y'all, like I said, this is only our second and a half year. We are always learning and growing. We don't know everything. Now here's some basil I put in that is just extremely healthy. It looks really good. This might actually be two plants right next to each other. I should probably move one, but I love planting basil, and I wanted to plant more and more this year because we make pesto, and I want to make enough pesto to last me until next summer's garden. This year we didn't quite have enough, but we just love pesto. Homemade pesto is delicious from your garden. If you are living in the city or something like that, you don't have a garden yet, the two things I would suggest you plant to bring you joy and to use is basil, because you can plant it in a window box, in a little pot in your house, and grow it, and you can make homemade pesto. It's delicious. And then the second thing that just brings me joy is the zinnia flower, which we'll get to my flowers in just a minute. Zinnias are incredible. You just cut them and they come back, and you cut them, they come back, and you can put them in flower vases on your table. You can gift them to friends. They're beautiful and they're really easy to grow. So those are my two things I suggest planting. Okay, so here is dill, which it's interesting in the garden. If like the duck passes the dill and I'm working over here, I will you just smell dill. It is very strong. It's beautiful. It's really healthy. I need to harvest some and probably dry it, but it looks really good and it tastes really good in recipes. Okay, here, this is an interesting and a surprise plant that we planted. So when we started our starts in the greenhouse, we did it with our homeschool group. Well, some moms planted this chia plant, which is apparently where chia seeds come from, but they planted it, and then a lot of them didn't actually have a garden, or they didn't know what to do with it. So I took them and I planted them, and then I was like, I need to research this. Once they're in the ground, I researched it and realized they get to be like 5 to 6 feet tall. They do have some pretty purple flowers, so I'll look forward to that. But the process of getting actual chia seeds from them is kind of insane. It's like shaking the seeds out of the flowers and all this stuff. So I don't think I'll do that, but I think you can make tea with it, and we can enjoy the pretty flowers. They'll attract butterflies and bees and things like that. So here it is. It is just growing very largely already. And then down here, to finish off my herb garden, I have a little bit more basil because I just planted it once it was ready, because I started from seed. And then right here is parsley, and the parsley is looking really good. I only planted that recently. Oh, and I have one random green onion here. That does not look good. But that's what we have in the herb area. And what? What do we have? We have strawberries. Here, I picked you some snap peas. Alright, so here we have an entire row of squash and zucchini, minus the one random Brussels sprout plant that I still have in the ground, which needs to come out because it's gross. But these are some zucchini and squash. We also have some in the back of the garden in our compost no-till area that we're trying out this year, but I planted way too many, and so we decided to put them in the ground on this row, and we will try to sell our extra. Okay, so corn was one of our favorite things to plant last year. My kids love corn on the cob. We had so much fun growing it. So one thing about corn is you need to grow it side by side. So you can't just do one long row. You need to do them side by side because they're cross-pollinating. They self-pollinate each other, so they kind of cross over and the wind blows them. So we used the same seeds that we saved from last year, and maybe we planted them a little deep. So plus with the colder, rainy weather, they're really slow. And I mean, we did put them in later, but they're not looking great, but we're going to show you anyways. We're hoping they'll come up. We do have plans to do probably 2 more crops of corn throughout the summer as things are harvested. So right here, you can just take a look. This is our 2 half rows of corn that we have. Some look really great. They've come up well, and some are just now coming out of the ground. So I hope that doesn't, you can see these just came out of the ground. I hope that doesn't mess us up later when some corn stalks get big and maybe shadow the other ones. Hopefully it will end up growing well when the heat picks up. So those 2 half rows go all the way down to about here. Okay, so I'm about to take you through my flowers section. The great thing about this series of showing you monthly the growth is I can't wait to look back at this video and then see how it looks in June and July, because the flowers are just going to take off. Last year we had half a row of zinnias. That was about all the flowers we had. This year I have probably 3 rows so far of flowers, and I plan to do another row. That's a lot more flowers. We're really excited to maybe start some flower sales this summer, and I keep thinking I need more flowers because they're not up yet because the heat hasn't picked up, but I think we're going to be shocked at how many flowers we have. So what I got was from Baker Creek. I got some rare seed zinnias. You're not going to see those really yet. They're just popping out of the ground. Here's one that's kind of bigger, but they're just kind of popping up so far. It has taken a while for those to germinate just because it has not been hot enough. But there is one, and we need to make sure the chickens are staying out of here from nipping on them. But I also did a tiny spot of bachelor buttons just to try. So this whole row here is basically zinnias. I'll take you down to show you some that I transplanted from when little zinnias pop up where I planted them last year throughout the garden. I'll take that plant up and come replant it where I want it, and those already look really healthy. But the ones I started from seed are just kind of picking up because of the heat. So over here I started from seed and then transplanted in here calendula. You can kind of see it here. Some of it doesn't look super healthy. I'm hoping it will come back and be good. But I have calendula down here, and I wanted that because it is really good for skincare. So I don't know if I'll like cut it and use it in bouquets and stuff, but I want to infuse it into oils and make lotions and salves and things like that because it's really good for your skin. So I planted a good amount of calendula. And then here you get to our straw flowers. So these I did way earlier. They are looking way healthy. I have some bigger ones at the end as well. Straw flower are a new flower for me to plant, but I'm very excited about it because they are plants that are called everlasting flower, I believe is the name people call them, because they're like a papery flower that have a lot of different colors, but they keep their color even as they dry. So you dry them out and they keep these pretty colors, and you can make so many things with it. We're thinking about garlands and wreaths and things like that, dried arrangements, and they'll have beautiful colors. So you can see those all the way down this back row. Okay, so this is that row of zinnias. Like I said, the first one are the rare seed zinnias, a different kind that I've never planted. These, as you can see, that are growing here, these are from my own seeds from last year. So I replanted them. I did those earlier than the rare seeds, so they are coming up. But if you come down here, you'll see the ones that I transplanted from up at the front of the garden, which is where I had them last year. And you'll see we already have a bloom on one. I'm just waiting any day now for this thing to pop open, but you can see the difference. These were transplanted and they're big. And one thing about zinnias is when they start growing at first, say I have already done it for this, but you want to clip off this first little bit, which is, it's hard for you to do because you're like, no, it's so close. But when you clip this off, it will make your plant grow out like these and be more full and bushy, not just long and like flimsy. And so you can already see how healthy this one looks because of these, because I clipped it at first. So you do that with zinnias and with straw flowers. So if you're planting those, make sure you clip off once they get like 2 to 4 inches high, clip off the first little middle part and they will expand and grow out more. Like they're half rows. It's originally where we planted garlic in the fall, but we didn't have much luck with the garlic. We put pine straw over it and everything, but I only have like 5, 7 garlic plants that are coming up. Here's a couple. Hopefully they'll have good bulbs under the ground when we do harvest them later in the summer. But that's what happens when you're a first timer. You just try things and you learn. But what I planted here, y'all, if I can grow a dahlia flower this summer, I will have made it. I will be so excited. They are beautiful flowers. So like the zinnias and the straw flowers, I feel positive about those. These rows are kind of experimental flowers for me. So these are dahlias. These are the same as the zinnias. You pinch off the first bloom at like 4 inches or so, and they will expand out. This one looks super healthy. I have 4 here that are growing, and I think this one surely it will be close to having something on it soon, and I cannot wait to see a beautiful flower come because they are gorgeous. But these grow from a little bulb type thing, kind of like a tulip or a potato, like a bulb. And so that's how I grew these. That's why I only did a couple.
You call them tubulars?
Tubers. Yeah, they're called tubers technically. Yeah, and when you buy them, they are very expensive. Even like I only bought mine at Walmart. I didn't order them from some farmer or anything, just because I saw them and it was just a whim. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. So I bought them. But yeah, they are more expensive. Oh, you need help? Like I said, you can see some of our garlic here, so I kind of planted flowers in between them. I do have a couple more dahlias that I planted like last week, so they have not come up. This is one that came up late, and then there's a couple more on this row, so you won't really see anything yet. There is one marigold I put in the ground here. I think these were from seeds that I saved from last year. And then randomly today I saw this watermelon coming up. Don't know where that came from. Over here, I'm excited about this because I wanted to grow this year some plants that would provide us some tea in the winter. We really enjoyed hot tea this winter. So I planted chamomile from seed, and it is coming up pretty full. Well, there's one kind of random over there, but it looks good. I don't know much about it, but hoping it will grow big and have lots of chamomile flowers for us. And then this row here, I have a flower called lupine. You can see it here. This is probably one of the better ones. There's not a ton of them that actually have germinated and grown. There's maybe 7. So I'll probably come in here and plant some zinnias that I find throughout the garden and put them in between it just to fill up the space. But there are a couple there. And then, like I said, here's dahlias here. And then back here, I planted straw flower from seed. So the straw flower we saw on the back of the row were, I grew them in trays and then transplanted them. So they are much healthier. So if you plant straw flower, I would actually do it that way. I wanted to try both to see because it's my first year. But here are the straw flower straight into the ground from seed. And so like you can see, those just aren't as big and as the ones that I transplanted. Those are huge already by like 5 inches or 4 inches. So I would grow them in trays and transplant them. But that is the end of our row garden. Now I'm going to take you to our new trial garden we're doing this year. It's called the no-till garden, the no-till method. And so I'm going to take you over there and show you what we did. Okay, so this is our no-till area. How many feet is that, Miguel? 8?
8 to, yeah.
7, something like that. About 8 or 7 feet. Last year in the fall, what we did, like right after the end of the summer, we took a bunch of cardboard, we took grass cuttings, we took pine needles, we took manure, compost, and we stacked it. So it's called the lasagna method. If you look it up, it's called the lasagna method. You stack these things, they deteriorate down, they create this wonderful composted ground. You let it sit for a while, like months to a year, and then you go back and you put a thick layer of compost on top of it and you plant on top of it. So that's what we did. So all of this was from our land. We either took topsoil with manure from places where our cows had been, or we took the compost that we saved from all of our chicken manure, all of our grass cuttings, all of our food scraps. We pile that up throughout the year. Miguel turns it with his tractor, and we use that as the topsoil here. So you're going to be able to tell a huge difference. The plants have just come up crazy here. So we tried this fun thing this year, which I'm also excited to watch things grow up at. These are 3 trellises we put up with hog paneling, some random pipes or T-posts, things like that. And what we planted on the outside of them, they should trellis over them and grow their fruit like down or around it. I love it, one, because it's going to make it less chaotic on the ground, or I just feel like they're going to grow more healthy, but also it's going to be beautiful, and who doesn't want a beautiful garden? So I'm excited about this. So on this first trellis, I planted a loofah plant. So you can see this one's already attached to the trellis. Come up close to Joe. See, it's already attaching there. Incredible, like a spring. And then on the inside here, I put some more marigolds, which are looking really healthy in here. So I have those plants planted on both sides of here. All right, so here's where this composting got a little bit out of hand. I did not plant these plants in the middle, although they do look pretty great, except for this weird peeling thing. I had to figure out what that is. These grew on their own. Because this is compost, our recycled food and things like that, things have popped up, which is kind of crazy, but it's not terrible. So here I have watermelon, which is coming up, and this is cantaloupe. They will both grow up, and yes, the watermelon can grow on it, which is crazy, but it's strong enough. I also put in some random green onions in here. So you can see one over here, you can see one right here. This one I just clipped from. But when you get those from the store, you can just keep the root and just stick them in your garden, and they will regrow and regrow and regrow. And I use them a lot cooking. So we have that, and then on this trellis, I have cucumber. And then as we go along, those are the only trellises we did, but we put all of our vining plants in here. So it's a random assortment of squash, zucchini, cucumber, watermelon, cantaloupe, all throughout here. But because I did have them spaced well, but because so many popped up out of nowhere from the compost, it's gotten a little crazy. So someone, like I said, gave us these, so we put these around things like cantaloupe, watermelon to help them grow up and off the ground. And then, like I told you earlier, show them this right here. If you look close, these are some tomatoes that have come up in the compost, which shocks me. But I'm thinking I'm gonna move those because I don't think they'll make it back here with all these vining plants. But you can see the difference in these squash that were planted the same day as the ones in the row. This is planted in 100% compost, and they are already growing. You can see this plant under here. They're way healthier looking, and that already has fruit on several of them. Here's some too. So this is looking to be very successful already. We're excited. Now this last portion of it, we put a little bit more dirt in and not as much compost, and you can majorly tell. So this weekend we plan to put more manure in here because these are weak, very weak. Just scan that and show them how sad these plants are. And these were planted before the ones in the back, and this is all they've done. So they just need some fertilizing, some nutrients in the soil. Just wasn't good enough for them. So that's what we have here, and then also a couple of marigolds. Also planted way earlier than the other ones, and they barely grown at all. So manure and compost make such a difference. If you're gardening and you don't have a compost, start it. Just keep your scraps, put it in there, turn it with either a tractor or a shovel every once in a while. It's very helpful.
This last part of our garden is really just a garden box that we built recently to put right by our chicken coop, and it's right next to our compost as well. We put some sunflowers in here and some 4 o'clocks. I was hoping to allow the 4 o'clocks to grow up and over our chicken coop, so we will see how that goes. Part of the sunflowers did get eaten by the chickens though, so Not sure how successful this will be, but I'm excited to see how it looks when we come back for our June garden tour. So make sure you subscribe to our channel, the Simply Sewell Homestead. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our May garden tour, and we are excited to continue sharing our homestead journey with you all and share our June tour as things begin to grow and bloom and flourish.